This episode is about why so many film festivals keep their judges anonymous. I am a film festival organizer, which also means that I'm in part responsible for hiring judges. In the past, I have been a judge for several different festivals and contests. That being said, I'm able to offer you a little bit of insight into why so many jurors elect to remain anonymous throughout the process. I've heard many filmmakers mention that if a festival doesn't disclose who is on their jury, that they're a scam. This is simply not true. There are many reasons why people who are on the jury of a festival may elect to remain unknown to the filmmakers, and sometimes they're even unknown even to each other. I can't say that every film festival out there isn't on the up and up, because there are a lot of scam festivals out there, especially online-only ones. But a good many of them are completely legitimate, and they have completely qualified judges. But don't ever think that because those judges prefer to remain unknown, that the festival is shady. Every festival is different when it comes to how they select their jury, who their judges are, and even how many they have. Some festivals opt for a large pool of judges that could be anywhere from 2 people up to a couple dozen, depending on the size of the festival and how many average submissions they get per season. Some of the smaller festivals, and unfortunately a lot of the shady ones, may only have one judge, and that is usually the festival director, his or herself. Now, I'm not saying that one person can't judge a bunch of films and screenplays. I'm just saying that it's a very, very difficult job, and I'd be a little bit leery about any festival that only has one judge. Now, who the jurors are really depend on the festival. A lot of them will tell you that the judges are all people who work in the industry, and a lot of the times this is very true. There are several people who work on the side as film festival judges just for a couple extra dollars or because they love the industry. This doesn't mean that they are people whose names you would even recognize. A festival might have a director on the jury, but they won't tell you that that director made a couple films that you've never heard of that are in the back archives of Amazon 8 years ago. Another group of judges that some festivals have are what I call celebrity judges. These are jurors that will usually let you know who they are. They are generally known celebrities, whether they're actors or producers or directors. They are often guest speakers at the live events themselves, or they'll send in a video message to all the contestants. Celebrity judges are known because that is part of the draw to get people to submit to that particular festival. And then there's the third group, which is generally your everyday Joes. These are usually people who are very interested in film, but they're not necessarily people who understand all the technicalities of filmmaking. For genre festivals, it could be a selection of people who are big fans of that particular type of film. For more general festivals, it could be a mix of people who just say that they love watching films, and they might not necessarily like the kind of films that they get assigned when it comes to judging. Another thing that is almost impossible to know, but does make a big difference when it comes to judges, are whether or not they're compensated. The reason for this is hard to picture unless you've actually done the job, but it is not uncommon for a judge to end up having to evaluate hundreds of submissions over the course of a year. Now, when you are talking about screenplays, you're talking at least an hour, if not longer, per project. And with films, depending on whether they're features or shorts, that takes up a good chunk of time too. People who are being compensated tend to put a lot more effort into judging than those that aren't. Think about this for just a moment. Unless you have a means of income that gives you gobs of time on your hands and you just love watching movies, you're going to find that judging a film festival is actual work. And when you realize that you've got about a dozen films that you only have a few days to evaluate, you're going to realize that it's eating up all of your free time, and you'd rather be going out and doing something else. For this reason, a lot of uncompensated judges will find any reason whatsoever to dismiss a entry as soon as it hits their desk. I have known judges for screenplay contests who will throw a script away at the first typo, just to bring the workload down. On the other hand, compensated judges look at this more like a job. They're getting paid to evaluate projects, and most of them take this very seriously. Another thing to keep in mind is that everybody has their own opinions when it comes to the films they watch, and this makes it very hard for festival directors when it comes to figuring out which ones are going to get into a festival when you've got wildly varying opinions from the jurors. Somebody could absolutely love one film while somebody else watching the exact same film will think it's crap. This is something to keep in mind too when you're wondering why a film that you've made gets into some festivals and not others. Now we're going to start getting into why they stay anonymous. Remember I said that judges have varying opinions? Well, what if you knew which judge thought that your film was bad? How would you feel about that person? I can tell you what those judges think. They get a little bit concerned that some disgruntled filmmaker is going to start making threats against them. Now, I don't have any personal knowledge of this happening, but it's certainly possible, given that we've seen people commit violence for far less. And the fact is, a lot of filmmakers are extremely attached to their work, and a lot of them feel that their work is much better than a lot of the other films that do end up in festivals. This much I have seen, just judging off of reviews from other festivals, and hearing people grumble in the audience during award shows. So it's completely understandable that a judge might not want anybody to know who he or she is, just on the fear of the threat of violence. It would be even worse for a judge who was known, who attended the live event, because then they're completely exposed to all kinds of insults and threats directly from people or friends of the filmmakers right there at the event. Now remember I said that a lot of film festival judges are in the industry themselves? Here's another good reason why a lot of them stay anonymous. Imagine you're looking for work and you apply to a production where the director remembers that you were a juror in a festival that he or she really wanted to get into and didn't. They don't even have to know whether or not you liked their film or not. All they're going to know is that they didn't get into that festival and you were on the jury. Therefore, you're responsible for their unhappiness. Do you think you're going to get that job? I promise you, this is something that a lot of judges think about. So in conclusion, it really is best for everybody involved if jurors remain anonymous for film festivals. You may be talking to a judge during a live event, sitting down having a drink with them, getting along great, and will never know that they thought that your film was bad. Or you might be ignoring the guy who's sitting quietly in the corner, nursing a martini, and never know that that person thought your film was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It is very rare that a judge will actually tell you whether or not they evaluated your project, and if they do, it's usually because they really enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.